Hello everyone and welcome back. So new programming concepts we are going to learn in this video. So those who are experienced developer, they already aware about this concept of variable like in a storage location. But if you are very much new to the programming world, if you have not even heard about this variable, I'm just trying to explain you in a very layman term. Let's say, let me write here first what we are learning. So it will be a variables, or I would say variable. Let's say for everyone as a human on our planet, we have been associated with some kind of address. Because suppose if some of your relatives wants to send something at your home, or if they want to grab something from your home, they should know about the address. If they don't know address, how they can locate you on such a big planet on which we are living? They just messed around it. They just cannot, locate you. They just cannot get you. So the content available inside our home has been associated with some kind of address. And the content here is nothing but, I would say, my home, my house, where I am living. So you can try to relate this concept exactly like a variable. Let's say I want to store something in some kind of bucket. Let me give the name like bucket, and inside the bucket I want to store some chair, or I can't say chair, I want to store like, let's say, water in a bucket. Let's say water. So water inside the bucket. Now in this case, the bucket will be my location and a water will be a content. So in programming term or in a mathematical term, the bucket will be a storage location. It will be a kind of variable where the content or a value will reside like a water. Same way, my home will be like my address, and whatever the content my relatives wants to grab from me, or I want to send something to my home as a courier, the content available inside that will be nothing but the value. So we can grab, like, let's create a variable like bucket, and we just want to keep water inside it. So water will be a value. Now in this case, I have just kept the string variable. Although we haven't learned about the string, but we can assign the string. So that means the bucket is a storage location where the water lies. Now suppose in future I want to grab the bucket. I can just simply use bucket. So let me just execute the first line. You can see bucket is equal to water. If you go to variable explorer, we got created one variable bucket where the values is water. If I just try to print this bucket, it will be a water. Let's create another variable. Let's say another variable I want to create, or I would say storage location like age. Let's say my age is 27. So in this case, age will be a variable, and a content inside this storage location I want to put is at 27. So in this case, I'm trying to put the integer value. So let me just execute it. And suppose if I want to print it, I can use like print function also. Otherwise, in a Python interpreter, you can just directly paste the variable name and automatically the content inside this variable will be printed. Let's say age. Alright, so that's a 27. So I think you got the concept, like variable is nothing but address location through which we can get the content available inside it. Now more and more, if you get familiar with, you will be able to relate this thing with your real world phenomena also, and more you use it, you will get familiar with that. So alright, now to define this variable name, there has to be some rule you need to follow in a Python. Now every programming language has their own rule, but in Python, so suppose if you want to create a variable like underscore age, let's give the name like, let's say 23. If I try to execute it, it's perfectly fine. You can see underscore age. If I try to print underscore age, it's a 23. That means underscore starting of any variable is perfectly valid. Suppose if I try to do, let's say, to age, and if I try to assign 23 to it, and you can see we got the error like a syntax error. That means the variable name just cannot start with any kind of digit. Instead of that, variable name has to be start with a letter only. Now suppose we have already defined age. So age is 27. Now I'm trying to define one more age, but where A is capital. And let me give age is equal to 32. So now we have a two variable, like one age having a A capital and another age where every single character is a small case. Now suppose if I try to access this age, small age, so it will be a 27. If I try to access age, this is 32. That means the variable names are case sensitive because this age and this age are completely different. Now you can use this underscore in between also. So earlier we have created this 2age, but it didn't work. But suppose if I want to include 2, I can use it like age 2 and let's say 34, and it's perfectly fine. So you can put digit after your first letter. You can even put like A to G. Alright, let's say 21. So that is also perfectly okay. Only thing is that variable name just cannot start with a digit. Suppose you want to include hyphen, let's say age hyphen 23, and if I try to do 34, so it's giving error that cannot assign to the operator. That means hyphen is not allowed. Let's try with underscore. So let's say age underscore 23. Let me give 90, and age underscore 23 is perfectly valid one. So that means these are the some of the rules you need to follow while creating your variable. Now there are some common convention. It is not technically you should strictly follow it, but common conventions are whenever you create any variable which start with underscore, it has to be a private variable. But that is the concept of object-oriented programming. I am not going into detail about that as of now. When we learn about the object-oriented programming, we will get into it. But some best practices you should follow. Not necessary that you must follow, but technically these are the rules you must follow while creating the variable. Alright, so this is about what variable is, and we have seen what are the rules you need to follow while creating or defining the variable. Now some operations what we can perform on the top of variable we will see in a next video.